everybody. Welcome to the Thinking About Me podcast, where we are talking to humans all around me and about their life and their experiences, and where we focus about the understanding of mental and emotional health through these journeys and the physical health of it all, and just how we overcome all these things. So that's what we're going to be talking about. If you don't know me, my name is Adela Hittel, and today I am with Ashley Beloat, who is not only a dear human and a dear friend of mine, which just, oh, her heart and what she does and everything is just beyond comprehension and explanation. But we're gonna try. And so that's what we're here to do today a little bit. So I'm gonna introduce you to her. Ashley Beloat is on with me. She is a nurse. She is a actress. She is a model. She is a model coach. She owns her own model model coaching school, Ashley Beloat School of Modeling. And she has just been just booked a couple of jobs with Darman and the Darman Productions, which is pretty awesome because that's something I know a lot of us follow, and a lot of us have been inspired through those messages and those videos, because I know I remember a few lessons I've learned. I'm like, that should be a different perspective, or okay. So it's pretty cool to know, and we just talked about this, that 2 years ago we were watching that same thing and like being like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then 2 years later you're booking jobs on the show, and I'm having conversations and creating projects and 2 years into it. And so it's pretty cool to be well-rounded and come around to that. So here's Ashley Beloat, and tell us a little bit more about yourself, and a little bit more and better, more concise, I guess, than I covered it, because I'm just so enamored by you. So tell us a little bit more about you.
Can't really add anything to that. I mean, you always sing everyone's praises, like above and beyond, Adela. Yes, I'm a nurse. I also work in modeling and acting, and they may not seem like related fields, but they really are. They're businesses of people, just creative and science, and they match perfectly. So I have a lot of fun. And my career in the creative fields led me to you, and I'm so excited for that.
I have to keep unmuting myself because we don't need to hear my burp or my little breather, the stuff in between the scenes. I know. We met almost 5 years ago. Well, 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, something like that. Through a mutual friend. And when you had just started out modeling, I mean, you had started out, but like really kind of into it. And I was just like, hey, I'm going to pick up this camera because somebody told me they couldn't do something. And I was going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to try. And that's what I did. And you were my first try. You were my first. So let me tell you a little bit about that. So you don't know this. So do you remember that shoot we did with the wedding dress, and we did all, like, that first shoot where I got to like really meet you, and I was like, hey, come do something with me. That was the first month I got my camera. And that was the first time I was like, I asked our friend, Jay Brown, who is another photographer of ours. And so Beauty from Ashes is his company. So check him out. But we met through him, and I remember sitting there and I remember, hey, do you mind if I snap a shot or two, just to try it out? He's like, no, absolutely not. Kind of walked me through some stuff, and I was like, okay, cool. And I remember our shot, because we put it on Instagram, and it was the first shot that we got featured, and we got like shared off of that. And that was my first photograph and my first and then we got into everything else.
Oh my God.
So yeah, and then we got into doing all the other stuff, and then the other series we've done together and things like that. And so that was my very first, like, I'm gonna try, and here we are, and we put it out, and it got featured, and we were like, oh my God, and there you go. So there's a little backstory to that I thought I'd share with you on that.
That makes me love it even more. That's awesome. I had no idea. I can't believe I had no idea. Wow.
Well, it's it's little things that you don't recognize until you look back, or you're reminded of something that's important to you, or a moment in your time where you're like, well, why did I do this, and how did I do this, and how did it make me feel? What was the reaction to that? And I go back to that moment as if like I could still be there right now. Like, I've become so well at being able to remember the things that made me feel so good, or made me feel confident, or made me inspired. And that was one of those moments, because it was my first click, and I was like, oh my God. And that was why I did my own, I did the hair and makeup. I was just hair and makeup artist on that set. Like, I didn't come for anything else. And then I was like, well, then I started coaching, and so all these things, and here we are to where we are. And so like those moments, they mean a lot. And so that was behind the scenes of that, you guys, that I should share.
And
Pretty
look at
inspiring.
things 4 years later. That's
Look
crazy.
at us winning to the T, like, but because of the hard work we put in, it kept showing up, because of one shot. And so, and that goes to show that one shot we got featured in. You were like, I like her, I want to work with her, and I was like, I like her, she'll work with me. And here we go. Here we are 4 years later now, creating across country, guys. Like, she's in LA, I'm in Jacksonville, like across country. And we have teams across country like that we work together with, and we've been able to maintain those relationships over the last 4 years, which is so mind-blowing because it's hard in this industry to do that. And we have, and that's been pretty cool. So now that you guys know that little story and know a little bit more about how we really first had our creative interaction, and then after that, by the way, we take 15 minutes in between other shoots when we could work and do some photo shoots until we could schedule stuff together, because we were like, what can we do in 15 minutes? You're early. And we're like, well, let's do this. And so, so looking back at that now, tell me how your journey has been for you, how where you were, you know, in that mindset, in that frame to now, like, what has been the greatest change and the greatest influence for yourself that you've seen?
Honestly, this whole, and I've been very open about this. If people have followed me, they know that I used to have anorexia as a teenager. And the whole reason I got into modeling to begin with was because I wanted to beat the fear of what people thought of how I look. And it's really just been a journey of conquering one fear after the other. And, you know, along the way, finding out, wow, I really like this. I really love the artistry in this. And it just, life opens up when you start conquering your fears. You start realizing how much you are capable of that you were holding yourself back from. And I moved out to Los Angeles to pursue modeling, signing a modeling contract, never considered myself an actress. And like 90% of the stuff I book is acting related. And for Darman, like, that was my first lead where I had lines and tears and like I'm crying half the day, like snotty nose and everything. And I just kept thinking to myself, oh, I'm so afraid to watch this. Like, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. But, you know, again, conquering something that I was so afraid of, and now realizing, you know, no, I actually want to get better at this. So it's really just been a journey of proving myself wrong in the best way. Isn't that fun?
It's one of the most, like, you want to be wrong. Like, you actually, like, eventually you become so, like, unafraid of being right, because, like, you're like, I know if I do this, it's going to be fine. Like, I know I'm able to do this because I've done it enough to now know, and I have practiced enough the feeling of it to know that if I do this, I can do this. That doesn't mean that those thoughts again don't come in and where you come, you know, where you're like, man, I still can't see it. I'm still gonna critique myself. But where you're confident in being like, I can do this. So the ease of that, like, fear becomes less and less, where then you're right almost all the time. And you're like, I'm really trying to find a situation where I'm completely out of my comfort zone, what it could teach me in a whole life zone, in a whole other way that I'm not getting right now, which is one of the things I think you did from moving from Florida to LA, because you were able to get through and weave through all these things as an artist, as a nurse, in both careers, in both ways, and get the education. So you're like, I need more now. Like, I need more in that sense. And there you are, like, huge move. So how has that transition been for you? Like, you guys just moved, you moved during COVID too. Like, okay, so by the way, you guys, they had just moved, like, before COVID hit like crazy. We had just finished wrapping up production for Rebirth, and they were like, we're leaving, and we're like, okay. So they left, like, I think February or March, something like that of that year. COVID hit, shutdowns happened. They came back, then they moved back out again. How has all that been transitioned? Because, like, you guys have been able to manage it, stay as healthy as possible, you know, and still book these jobs. How has that been, and what challenges have you had to, like, overcome to do it?
I mean, really, this sounds so cliche, but my husband Will and I, like, just knowing that we're together, we feel like we can conquer anything together. And the fact that I still had a nursing job in Florida, that's the reason, by the way, everyone, that we moved back to Florida the first time when everything shut down for COVID. I didn't have my nursing license yet in California. So I actually came back to Florida mainly to work at the hospital, be of use instead of just sitting in an apartment when I could be helping people at the bedside. So we didn't really come back to California until I got that nursing license. So really just trying to remain active in all of my careers at the same time, realizing that they're all skills that I have for a reason and that they're meant to be used. That's really been the driving force in all the moves and given us the security that, you know, things are going to be okay. We're doing all that we're empowered to do and opportunities will open. And also being persistent. The best things in life are not easy. You know, the things that require growth and are hard at first and maybe a little bit scary, those are the things that give your life potential to get better or change in an exciting way. You know, I always say you can't expect your circumstances to change until your patterns of behavior change. And change is the scariest thing for us. We like comfort. So realizing that being uncomfortable for a little bit is okay. It's actually a good thing if you treat it the right way.
Uncomfortability is something that's so fun to have around. It's the risk.
Yeah.
You know, it's the risk. It's that word risk everybody talks about. Take a risk. Well, the risk is your uncomfortable moment. The risk is the time you get on that plane and you go do this other thing. The risk is to ensure that every day you're being consistent and mindful about the actions you have to take to ensure that that risk that you're applying for is now going to be as uncomfortable as you know it already will be. And so one of the lessons I think through all these transitions that we've learned, but we can all learn, is that if you prepare less, or I mean, if you prepare more for your uncomfortable situation, like down in the future, then it will be less uncomfortable. And that's what we've done, like with our projects together, what we worked on, and we prepared. I mean, yes, it was a lot of work, it was a lot of meetings, it was a lot of reading, it was a lot of stuff. But when we got on it, or when we get to places, it was like, okay, so we're all scared to be in here. We got all these things. We're all here. Oh my God, are we all? But we know what to do. We know what this is. And if that's the only thing that's holding me back is my own questioning of self, then there is really nothing to fear because I get to move it. I get to control it. I don't have I'm not going to fail because then I literally have, if I fail because I stopped. And that's one of the most beautiful things that I think you've transitioned, like you and Will particularly have shown, not only I think as individual artists, to be honest, you guys are so young. You guys have to understand, these guys are young. And, you know, I'm in my 30s, they're in their 20s. So there's a big age gap in what we're doing. So I started late, they started, well, I mean, in the sense, and I say this because there's so many people that are in my age right now going like, either, oh my God, it's too late, it's this and that, I'm old, or this, like you're not. Like, I literally feel like I'm 20 years old and I'm going hardcore, and that's why we can hang, like, let's go. And it's not because I'm old, it's not because you're young, but there is those age gaps, and know that that's everywhere and it's okay. But if the humans connect, if the people are willing to work, if they're showing up, then the age does not matter in that. It means that they're willing to work and they're going to do the things. I mean, there's legalities, guys, follow the legal rules, okay? And but that's what we've been able to do, and you and Will have been able to do that at a young age, to start out careers individually, to come together, to make a plan for each other together, and then to say, you know what, we have the possibility to take this to something bigger. How do we do that now? And you guys have been able to lead by example in strength and in unity to do that. And again, not that it's been easy. We all know life is not easy, but you guys have paved the way to do that. And so continuing this path, and then especially with these opportunities coming up, there's bigger challenges coming your ways, you guys, way more bigger challenges. However, right, but great opportunities, great challenges. That doesn't mean that they're not challenges that as a still young married couple, still young newlywed married couple, I say after 7 years, your guys are really into it, okay? Until then, you're still newlywed. But yeah, you guys are still going through that. And so having to make those decisions and tell me a little bit about that aspect of all of this. How's that been? Because again, from our point of view, you guys are kicking it. Let's go. We want to be like Ashley and Will.
Well, to be honest, when Will and I were dating, we were both very career oriented. When we first started dating, that's when we both started getting travel jobs in New York every month, at least. Like, we would be on a plane at least every month going somewhere to work together. We were constantly faced with high stress situations. And it was because of each other that these doors really opened up. And we had very serious discussions while dating. We talked about the serious stuff early on, and it was kind of in our plans that after a year of marriage, we would try moving to a place where our careers could go to the next level. And we were at first thinking Atlanta. But it ended up being LA, and it actually ended up happening a little sooner than Will wanted. So we were both, it was very uncomfortable because we weren't fully emotionally prepared for it. But I think in the end, it was in our best interest. But yeah, we really have had to have the serious talks early on. And we kind of had this mentality with each other, like, no, we're going to push ourselves. We're going to be okay with being uncomfortable. And that's the thing, when you're okay with being uncomfortable or you expect it, it releases a little bit of the panic and you just let yourself try. You're not afraid to try.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that's one of the greatest things is, yeah, that preparation. You're like, okay, I'm ready for the panic. Let's go. Let's go. And then it's like the panic comes and you're like, not as bad as I thought it was. All right. I can handle this. I got this. And then you walk yourself through it and you got it. And then you're like, that was fun. I want to do it again. Why was I even ever afraid of it? What was I thinking? And then you're trying to find a way to be like, how can I be great at it? Oh my God. Without being I'm so great, and because you get to a point where you're working really hard towards something you really love and all these things. So I wanted to ask you, because that's a really good leading point in there. As an artist, you have been growing as an artist. Again, I've watched you grow. I have watched you grow from being an insecure model who literally couldn't look at her pictures and like find something good about them to like finding things where she's like, bam, look at me now, bam, look at me now, like, look at this now, and that power. And again, not to say that there's still not insecurities about it all within us, but I've seen you grow as an artist and I've seen that confidence grow in your artistry. How have you been able to maintain a level head from it becoming such an ego thing and such a conceited way of being like, hey, I'm so good at this, take a look at my work, follow me doing these things, versus or like, oh, I'm so perfect at it, versus like, hey, I'm just here doing my job and staying level headed, because there's so many situations and comments and things that could come from you being proud of doing something, or from you being so proud that you're going to share, that you're going to do these things, and you'll get somebody that's like, stop being so, it's not all about you. And how have you maintained your level head just outside of that, and then when that situation happens?
I'm the first to admit you are never a complete master at everything in your craft, especially in fashion or acting. The industry changes daily, and then your body changes daily. So you have two things constantly changing. You have to work hard all the time to stay on top of it. And I'm the first to admit I will always be working as long as I'm in this, and I will always be learning and relearning and perfecting. But that's the beauty of it. And as far as insecurities go, I've learned that the insecurities, the lack of perfection, is what makes it relatable and what draws people in. So I do try to, like, if you go on my Instagram, my pictures are all polished and stuff, but I try really hard to keep my stories just as real as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's about being real. It's about putting who you are into your work. And I really hope that people sincerely see that.
Yeah, I think that you have a great way of translating that message too. And so that's for all of you guys too. If you're out there and you're trying to, as long as you're pushing and your intention is to be proud of what you're doing, then it's never going to really come off as anything in that egotistical, conceited way. It's going to come out, man, I'm so proud. Right, exactly, man. It's going to come out like, I'm so proud of the project or the people I worked with. Look at the results we've had. Look at what we've done. And understand that there's a difference between people who talk about it and do that. And so you should be proud of your work. You should talk about it. You should share it. You should inspire other people, because if we don't, we're going to be sitting here going like, nobody likes my work and nobody cares about me and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, no, it's because you don't care enough about everybody else's work too, and what you're completed together, and what it is about you then. And that's the difference in how, because I've had a question of how people ask me on every time I post something, it comes off sounding this way and that. How do I do that? I've had to talk that through. So it's a good way for them to know that it's not about you, even though it's your work, even though it's your faith, even though it's your thing, it's not about you. And you do a great job of translating that too to whatever you do. So kudos to you. So to those models, aspiring, or actors and things like that, just know it's not about you. It's about bringing yourself to something, but ensuring that you captivate that thing that everybody's asking for, because there's a lot more people riding on it than you. And that's kind of how it goes with teamwork. And so I think you guys, you do that, but we all combinedly, we work together a lot, do that so well. I think that's something that we've learned over the years to do, because it's one, I know it's been important to me personally, to ensure that everybody has a voice on my team and everybody has a perspective that they put into, but two, because so then that way, wherever you guys go off, to understand that your voice is important enough, that if you're in an uncomfortable situation, you're in a place where, yes, this is your artistry, yes, this is something you want to do, but walk away from something that's not good for you. And that's the difference between uncomfortable good and uncomfortable bad. So I'm going to ask you, since in the last, I don't know, last year or two, has there been a situation where you've had to either turn down a job or have walked away from something, or something that, again, was like good, uncomfortable good, but then either turned bad? Has there been a situation like that where just you had to walk away, even though it was your artistry, it was you?
There has been a situation, and it was a little different because I was in a leadership position, and I've done this with you before, where I manage talent, I'm involved in casting, and I'm like the point of contact, and I take that role very seriously, because I do this all the time. I'm used to being at the bottom of the totem pole, per se, and I really try to look out for my people. And I did not choose to walk away from the situation, but I did not step down when there were safety concerns. And when it's a safety matter, I don't play. I don't settle on that. Very important to me. I never want anyone to come to harm under my leadership. And I'm sure you feel the same way. And I can vouch for that, because we work together. But I was excused from the project because I would not step down on my concerns, and basically asking for safe and honest working conditions. And it was very hard for me, because then I felt, oh my goodness, maybe I'm hard to work with, maybe I'm this or that. But I really had to, I at first asked trusted people, explained the situation, both sides, to get an unbiased feedback, asking if there were ways I could grow or have done better. But really, at the end of the day, sitting down and considering, no, I was asking for safe working conditions, and I was truly looking out for the people that did not have as much say in the project. And, you know, I realized I am totally okay with being fired or walking away for the right reason. That is a reflection on what I stand for and my brand. And I want people to know, if I'm involved in the project, especially in leadership, I'm going to want the best for the team.
That's been, I'm really proud of you for that, because that's been a number one thing that I know for me, it's huge. And like you mentioned with our project, and which I will take a little pride in this. I've gotten quite a few compliments on how we ran our sets and all the things we did, and how seriously we took every voice, every precaution, every concern, every creative aspect of it. Even though there were accidents, there were things we could not control, because that's the human aspect in it. Like, you can't control the human error, you cannot, or human condition. You can't control the human, but you can provide all the safety barriers, and we did everything possible. And the human still chose to do the human thing. So, and which is really funny. But we were prepared, because we knew we had to account for the human making the choice to either contribute in a way that would hurt themselves or hurt someone else, and not intentionally, but it's because, like, we knew our set, how much everybody wanted to be there and what they wanted to give. But, like, again, those things happen. So if you're prepared, you know that, hey, you know what, sir, back it up, ma'am, back it down. And versus, I need you to put your masks on because we have autoimmune compromised people, or because of this and this and that. I'm not going to. We don't need to. Well, no, that's not a question. Bye. So there's like different ways of concerns and safeties so you understand the level of where you should be asking yourself, like, am I okay to stay? Because sometimes, again, accidents happen on things. But if your preparation part is not, that's not accidentally not planned. That's just not planned.
And I'm just going to say this, because I mean, I have the perspective of a nurse. Like, I know in Florida, it's not, the pandemic hasn't been as bad in places like as New York and Los Angeles. But I will say this, ICUs in every hospital are filled and they're overflowing. And I feel, especially as people doing activities that are not you know, a matter of life and death. It's our responsibility as professionals, as caring individuals, to be responsible in the way we plan these activities, to not make the situation worse or endanger the cast or their families, because we know the most qualified nursing care may not be available if they get sick. You know, it's just, it's part of our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. I think, like I said, I'm really fortunate because I've been able to surround myself with humans who, not to say that our artistry, in a way, is not of importance, because it's one of the most important things that we always talk about in that way. But then there's that human aspect that art, like, it has to involve. And if we don't take that human aspect as seriously as what the realities of human life, with what we want to create in this imaginations and these worlds of like, oh my goodness, amazingness, we don't take that reality in, then what we're trying to create can never come to fruition, because the reality is you don't have the resources. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough beds. We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have enough stuff. So why are we here going like, we can go to the black hole? You know, like, no, come on back down. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out, how do we work around it? How do we not put that into that situation? And but that comes with full communication. That comes with full everybody coming in and showing up to meetings, or reading through files that are sent and understanding the importance of things. And when in this industry, especially in our industries, I don't find that enough that's taken enough seriously, because it's just art, and art is serious and it should be taken seriously. And art is not just art, and it's not like it, you know, and I think that's been a lack of why a lot of people haven't taken it seriously, haven't taken it as a necessity that we need in our own life to be able to, because like you said, your artistry coincides so much with your real life that you can't do without both. It's literally an equal balance. And that's for me too. Like, I couldn't do what I do with cutting hair or doing other things, or my nonprofit work that has literally nothing with painting or designing. It's conversations, it's heavy issues, but those all connect, and it's as serious on both levels. So thank you, and kudos to you for keeping that seriousness, because I know how seriously I take it, and people think I'm crazy for it too. I've been fired and expelled from all kinds of stuff because of that, and I'm like, well, that's fine, but at the end of the day, nobody's getting hurt on my watch.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be
sleep over that. I would be sad the rest of my life for that. Yeah.
And so yeah, so I think that's a good thing. We have quite a huge group though that does take it seriously, and so understand there's going to be doors that will close on you, and opportunities or projects that you're even part of and will have to be let go of, or you'll have to walk away from, because they're just not the right thing that sits with you morally, or with your values, or who you are with your core, and where you want your brand to be. Because you have to understand something about branding, which is something that she brought up, is that with your branding, like right now, what you're building is, yes, not a lot of people will see it. Yes, it might not be a huge thing right now, but when you're building and building and building, and you get to the point where you're building enough people see it, do you know what they're doing? They're going back. They're going back to see who you really are. They're going back to see if your values have been true, and you've sustained yourself through that whole time of building. Because if they're going to invest in you, or they're going to be a part of who you are, and you just have this thing that they like right now, but you're not who you are, they can see through that right now. Like, that's something that social media has provided us the opportunity to sit through. Like, that's transparency, you guys. And if you're not honest in who you are and what you are, what you stand for, and your branding, then who you are as a human, like, it translates to that. So that's that again, branding, business, and human life, hand in hand. So tell me how you plan to build up your branding now. You have Ashley Beloat School of Modeling, and that's been something that you actually participated in. You offered your services to our girls when we've been doing our photo shoots and things, and that's so awesome because they love learning from you. And tell me if you have any more plans with that, and what your other plans are with your brand of Ashley Below, who she is as a model, in this industry.
Well, I feel like, because I still work for a lot of agents along with freelancing. I really, for the moment, I'm trying to maintain keeping true to my brand, having my work still reflect who I am. As far as the training, I try to keep it private and selective. I only do private lessons when girls really reach out to me. And part of that also because, they're my competition right now. I'm still actively working. So I'm not going to give away all my secrets for free, or to people that I feel I might not be able to trust, or, so I have to be selective with that. But really, I'm still at the stage where I'm trying to maintain the purity of my brand, and I'm still looking for growing opportunities. I would also say, being newly into acting, trying to get more skills in that, that also reflect my brand. That is my current focus right now, along with continuing.
I love that. So let me ask you, what's a typical day like? Not a hospital day, because we know that's a full day of hospital work, guys. She's on a 12, 15-hour shift, so she's there in scrubs taking care of patients. So we know what that is. You've seen TV shows, okay? But it's 10 times real than the TV show. But modeling wise though, or the creative aspect of it, what's a day in the life like for you? When do you wake up? What would be like if it's a full day schedule, what would that be like?
Well, the fun thing about modeling is that even when you are at home, you are still working, because to a degree, your face, your body is the product you are selling or wanting to be used for a campaign. So my self-care and my routines are part of my job. So I try to prioritize getting at least 6 hours, hopefully 8 hours of sleep, which will help keep my hormones stable and help keep my just my body healthy and thriving. I try to work out almost every day, just because it helps me feel better and it gives me energy to do everything that I do on a daily basis. Fueling my body well, skincare, and I have to listen intuitively to what it wants, because I'm changing from climates to what I'm doing throughout the day. If I have a shoot coming up, I will be practicing the mood that I know is going to be the focus of the shoot. Social media is part of my job, because I have to keep my name present out there. And also studying the current campaigns. And then if I get a rush self-tape, usually they're due the next day. So even if I'm working at the hospital, I have to come home late, set up my ring light, get dressed up, look at the script, deliver the copy, and it may be something I have no experience with. Like recently I had to do a self-tape for combat stuff. And so I was like, Will, show me some moves real quick. And I had to do some assassin stuff. Did I get the job? No. Did I think I would? No, but I was going to give it my best and try. So those are some things that I would be doing. But yes, the social media, and lately my agents have really been asking me to get some editorials. So having to search for magazines and deliver the editorials and get all the tags correctly. But yes, and then if you are booked for a job in Los Angeles, again, it is usually in 1 or 2 days. I was just on production set yesterday, and I did not have any lines, but all of the leads, it was a 24-page script, and they got the script the night before. They had to get their wardrobe together, they had an early morning call time, and they had to go and have 24 pages of script memorized and go. So it's really just going with the flow as best you can and being prepared to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, you said something about like how fast and how quickly some things happen. That's part of the industry and part of the world, and that's something that she says that happens in the real, like that's in the industry. That's something that I know that I call this the common people industry. The common people industry, and I say that because of the level of where we're at and how, again, we talked about the seriousness that we take what we do. That they don't understand sometimes in stuff like that, like the fact that you may even have a time and location ahead of time is like, holy crap. The fact that you may even have an outline of something and actually details of stuff, like, holy crap. The fact that, like, so when they go, oh, I don't know, or this and that, or whatever, but then you complain about getting something late or booking a job late, you complain about that. That's the way of, like, the world. So you cannot complain about not being able to prepare if you're not preparing for knowing that that's the way of the world. Like, you're literally scheduling your own misery because you know that's the way the world works. You will not succeed in this industry if you are not ready. I had literally part of like our storyboard and things that I had to do. I had to submit something to someone, and I'm hoping, to hope all fingers crossed, but I had 3.5 hours to do it. So, the storyboard I had to put together, I had 12 hours to do that. Right. And luckily, so you're talking about when an opportunity comes, if you're not willing to take the shot and stay up all night and do it, and then like surprise your man and be like, man, I'm done. And he thinks, hey, you did it. Man, you know what? It's just an opportunity came out. We're all hoping. Let's go. We're on top now. We are ahead of schedule. Let's go. But if
Yeah.
you're not willing to take the opportunity to do something and actually commit, show up, be dedicated, be tired, drink 18 things of coffee, and still have a good attitude about it, and still okay, you are not going to succeed, because that's one of the biggest requirements, and not just in this, like in real life, but in this industry, period. It is the biggest requirement. You better show up on that set. You better, because at the end of the day, they can walk outside, pick anybody.
Absolutely. And on another note, because I know you relate to this too. When I'm in leadership, as I have seen with you, and we have the ability to not have the team scrambling at the last minute, we push to have everything scheduled before time. I'm not okay with, I understand that the way of the world, it's last minute, but if you have the ability to make it not last minute, if you're in leadership, guess what? It is your job to do better for your team. Absolutely.
And that's where, again, it comes down to where we are trying to change that, our common for people, because that's where we're learning that, like, we know we can plan it and do this and execute. And one of the things I've learned from our own productions is that it can cost us less time on a day of set, or less money on a day of set, and less time on an actual production set if we're prepared. And I don't mean like just a little bit prepared. I mean like prepared. My color coordinated PDF files prepared. To the detail of the line of which, like, I need to know that this angle is going to be here, prepared. And if you're not discussing that with your teams or asking how and what's going to happen, then when you get on set, they do something that you're not prepared for, or you do something that they're not prepared of. Guess what that means? Stop. That means pause production. That means explanations. That means conversations. That means time wasted from an actual job being done. And y'all know how much I hate, and you know how much I love using the word hate. I despise the time wasted on a day where we should be able to come in and know, like, hey, that's the day we scheduled to work. That's the day you're supposed to show up. That's not the day to have a conversation. That's not the day to figure something out. And again, I think that the industry in our top level industry, they do prepare, but not necessarily within, like you said, involve the lower level part of preparedness that needs to happen, because that's where they lose the money. And one of the things I know I've tried to change on my sets and my productions and the way I run things is that if the only way I succeed is if the humans around me succeed, and that means from the bottom up. Like, it does not mean strictly from the top up, because they got to build me too. Like, I know I have an idea, but if you guys don't have a say, like with you, like one of the things with you, both Nicole and I still talk about on our production, we picked you because we both had our own version of what we wanted this character to be. We both had our own version, and we came together and we're like, yep, that would be perfect for Ashley. Like, before we even cast anybody, we knew it was you. And so we were sitting there talking about it, and then we come to rehearsal and we're like, okay, what do you guys have first? And you're like, I had this. And both of us didn't even say anything, because you were right. We liked yours better than we liked ours. So, like, at the end of the day, we're like, okay. And the reason is because it worked so much better on set than it did with what we thought your character would be on set. You took it because you evaluated your position, evaluated everybody else, versus us having to evaluate everybody in everybody's position. So that's the beauty of having everybody involved and being prepared on it. So then when we got on that set, we didn't necessarily have to have explanations. Like, you saw what we did. I'm like, we did that in no time. And because we prepared, we literally prepared. And I think that's one of the things everybody has to get a better at, in the level of, like, there's a lot of accountability and responsibility that falls on the self before you ever get on somewhere, whether that's leadership roles. And leadership right now needs to completely change. One of the biggest problems we have in any industry is the leadership, because they're just not involved. And that's like, they're not involved in the bottom level where they understand what's actually going on, and they have this version and creation of something that is in La La Land, and you can't have that.
I literally had somebody that was supposed to be in leadership just acting like it was okay to leave everyone in the dark until they show up. And that's not okay, especially if you have months ahead to plan an event. There's no excuse.
No, and not even just that. You, like, all things considered, and you have to consider all things right now. You have COVID, you have a pandemic going on. It's flu season. It's like all kinds of stuff in the world going on, and you're going to be like, you know what, the one thing we can all control, we're just going to keep you in the dark and be like, let's not get involved until the day of. So when you show up, the anxiety, and that's one of the reasons why when we talk about fashion and the industry and the sets and these things that they have, where you have so many models coming out, you have so many other artists and creatives coming out, how stressful, how like toxic environments have been and things like that, because the artists or the leadership roles decided that their egos are so much more important than the actual product or the actual vision of everybody's involvement in it, and where they
Or
can
the
all
people themselves.
the human. Like, why do you
Yeah.
not care for the human that's actually giving to your table? Like, you have this table that you're like, hey, I have this big table that I need filled, and I need models and actors and all these things, and I'm going, I need you to fill this for me, but only what I want. So I don't like that kind of mac and cheese. You better go make it my way. And it's like, man, they provided to your table. They gave. Have some respect, have some decency, and some compassion to what the human has already offered. Maybe, just maybe, that human that's the best box mac and cheese they got. And they ensure that it was prepared specially for you, because you're gonna look it down upon. And that's where the ego comes in our artistry, in our industry, where we absolutely do look upon down to humans and being like, that's all you can give me? No. Like, what can you give me? Oh, okay, that's perfect. The French fry? Got one French fry. How can we either cut it up into pieces or who gets it? That's okay. You know, like, who in here needs the French fry the most? Oh, okay, here you go. Like, who likes French fries the most? There you go, darling. But if we don't treat our sets and our productions and our humans like that, we don't have. I learned that from something I'm missing at home, something that I spent through these productions. I'm having memories about that I didn't think that I would ever have. Which is why art is so beautiful, why art is so important in real life, because and this is where we're talking about super mental health, you guys, but this is where art helps me remember. Art helps me remember the feeling of something that I either have craved or wanted that I couldn't find, and there was reasoning for it. I don't have memory of my life. I have no idea the tragedies that have occurred, but I do know them here. And it's hard to live in a world where you know in your mind you're fine. Like, there's no reason in any shape or form to ever be a feeling or have these things happening to you. And then out of nowhere, you've been fine with fireworks your whole life, and you recognize that now you're not, because they brought something else out. And so that's the kind of like real life things that happen that art has the ability to fix or help or treat, heal completely, because it's worked with me. And going into like, I remember the reason I called it the food off the table and all that stuff. I had an incident a long time ago that taught me that. And remember, it was a little while ago, and made my peace with it. But I remember that, and I was like, I'll never allow someone to take the food off my table, or allow someone at my table to be taking food off the table. And it brought back a moment of back home. Every Sunday, my family and our families would gather together. And now this, you guys, this is not the greatest description probably, and not probably, but this is what they used to do. The men would come around, sit on the couch while they got their drinks on, and they would sit there pouring their shots of vodka, moonshine, whatever it is, drinking and having this like thing. The kids would get baskets filled with chocolates and candies and stuff, and we played our rooms. And the wives would kind of prep the meals and talk and catch up, and then sit, and then they'd all sit together and sing and smoke their cigarettes while the kids played and ran it out, and just like everybody brought something, like, and that's like how it was. Like, everybody brought something to the table, and nobody left home hungry. Like, nobody left without anything. And that's the level I want in my business, in my life. That's the level, like, it's not hard to have. So I thank you guys for like putting up with me on my crazy, like, no food off the table thing, but it really is that important to me, because every human matters to me at that point. Like, I remember the kids, I remember the wives, like, I remember everybody that I didn't think I could remember the things that, because I have this thing where I'm like, no, you won't take from the human that's just provided something that's on our set, or you won't. And that stems back to way back to your kid. And that proves that there's instincts within you, that there's knowledge within you that is right for you, with your morals and your values, that you won't deviate from, no matter what this is telling you. And there's a reason for it, so trust it. So thank you guys for that, because trusting that got me to checkmate, got me to here, got us all to here too, because I've had to eliminate a lot of people who would come and take from the table that's already been provided for. And you can't do that. you just can't, because we've already done that. So I think that's another like step that we here as the artists right now are working really hard to ensure that whatever leadership positions we have, just like you with you walked away like you knew something was not okay, because that within you is important. And if we don't stop and step away from the things in there, no matter what the cost is, including money, including your name, including things, you have to recognize who you are, because you can always rebuild back on honesty. You can't rebuild on lies and on the untruths you've told in any shape or form, but you can rebuild back on honesty. They can't go back on anything that you haven't done. So keep that in mind, you guys, because that's what art and that's what everything that we do does, and who you are and how you can impact humans. I have to implement it a little bit, but that's where, you know, that's where everything you do in your life, why you as a human matter, why whatever industry you are in, why whatever decision you make, you impact another human, and you can make sure that they matter. Like even just walking down the street, you can't take food off their table, vice versa. And it's a concept that I'm so glad I remember. I'm so glad it's part of, like, it's ingrained in me. That's what makes my culture so beautiful, I think. But all the other side aside, you know, that's at the core is what makes it so beautiful. And what I know here in our own cities, in our own communities, we do have, it's just overshadowed by everybody stealing food so much. Going into that, what's next on your agenda? What's next on your plate? What's next? What jobs do you have going on?
Well, I'm very, very thankful. I was just thinking, like, wow, I was on set yesterday. I just booked a music video last night for 2 days from now, and then I'm doing a fashion show and shoot next Saturday. But really, the next task that I am going to be focusing on is completing the training at my new hospital. I am super excited. I actually used to work mainly with cancer and cardiac patients back in Florida, and I never would work a COVID unit because I could not be a hazard to the cancer patients. There were not many chemo nurses. And I'm actually in Los Angeles. Of course, all my patients are now going to be COVID. And I'm actually blessed and excited to work in a hospital that is serving an underserved community. So really rising to that occasion, learning to master the art of caring for patients with COVID, which everything is different. Even if their heart stops, the protocols for coding a patient are different with that. So that is the most important task on my plate right now. And I'm just going to be continuing to take whatever other opportunities open up in my creative field on the way. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I do that to myself. Okay, I talk too much, you guys. You know that. That's what we do. What exactly, you said that you chose a hospital in you just said the word.
Underserved.
There you go. A community. Can you say what community that is?
Well, I try not to say publicly where I work.
Gotcha. Just thought I'd ask.
Yes.
Okay. But it is in California, guys, and it's one of the things is, like, as you can see, she's not picking high-end stuff to be like, hey, I'm here for that.
I turned down to pick this place.
You know, I actually was going to ask you about that, because I thought I saw one of your stories that you had an opportunity for a position that would have put you, like, somewhere in your career that, like, genuinely, yeah, and you turned it down because it just wouldn't have fit to what you were. And so that's how was that, like, when you got that and then you had to, like, how was that moment of being like, oh my god, I got this opportunity? Because I know it's like, oh my god, I got this opportunity, but then you're like, was it, oh my god, I have to make a choice? Or was it like, I got this opportunity, but I absolutely know I'm not going to take it? Or do you have to think about it? What was that moment in transition like?
I really had to think about it, and it's hard because I chose my job from Florida, all the way on the other side of the country before moving out. And I really let my guide be seeing what the exchanges with management was like. Because again, if you look at the leadership, you can see how the patients are getting cared for. And while it was a bigger hospital, more prestigious, I could just feel this sense of caring from the place I chose. And that is why I chose nursing. And that's how I chose where to go. I didn't fully grasp the gravity of how bad the pandemic truly is until I finished all the classroom training and toured the hospital. And I cried on the way home. Just that realization of I could have stayed where it was comfortable. I could have stayed where I was safe as you could be working in a hospital. And this is where I chose. And while it's scary, when you know why you made a decision and you know you made it for the right reason, the scariness just doesn't matter as much as how happy you are to be a little bit afraid for a while, because you know that your actions are going to make a difference.
You know, you're saving a life. Like, that's what your breath is here for. And it's what everybody's breath is here for, to save a life in one way or another. Like, one way or another, our breath is here to save a life. And that's through a conversation, that's through nursing, that's through tech jobs, that's through whichever way you want to think about it. Our purpose on this planet, I know to the core of me, is to save human lives. And my belief is in complete humanity, to triumph over the worst of the worst, because I know, like, humans like you exist, humans like me exist, humans like Will and others around me, humans like that have just gone through, like Sam, who've gone through so much and still show up, and like humans who just beat the odds completely and being like, I want to be there for someone else other than me. And so I believe in that, because I'm shown that every single day, that humanity is selfless. We just have selfish actions, and we have to, like, untrain our habits from selfish actions, because we're not selfish human beings. Like, I don't believe truly we are so selfish that, you know, if the opportunity is given to save lives and we can do that and provide, we would do that. Now, I understand if it's you and me, like, we're going to do what we need to do to save lives. Okay, you guys, we're not talking about survival of the fittest right here. We're talking about general everyday life, okay? In that, we have the ability, have every single day a chance to do something for a human that does not, we act selfish. That's all it is. We're not selfish humans, just act. Because our actions have been gimme, gimme, gimme. And yeah, so I think we're going to be great. Humanity is going to triumph, as much as my husband likes to tell me that I'm wrong. He does. He's my pessimist on that. But it's really funny, because I'm all like, that's okay, you're changing. So my point is proven. Like, you just want to that's how I'm like, look, it just might take some time, but my point is proven. My point is proven. You've changed over the last 14 years, just like I have. Like, if I have it, my point is proven. It just takes some time. We want instant reactions of stuff because we're so used to that instant things that, again, we go back into our businesses about, like, we don't know how to plan. Like, we don't know how to really plan for our lives. I want to ask you two more questions. One, what is one message you would like to give to humans right now, to inspire them, to motivate them, to just give them something, a word to grasp on, a narrative, something to hold on to during this time, or doing in their career, during whatever?
I'm going to say facing your fears with intention, because it really is true. The world opens up when you start to lose your fears one by one. You're capable of so much more than you realize, so much more than you let yourself be capable of. I remember having this conversation with you years ago, how we are intrinsically afraid of letting ourselves reach our full potential because we just don't even understand fully what that could mean. But as you face those fears one by one, you just start to realize, wow, there's so much more I can do with my time, with my life, with my breath.
Oh, doesn't it make you feel good about yourself? You went from going like, I don't feel good about myself because I don't feel like I'm working hard enough. I don't feel like I'm doing all these things, even though you're busting butt, you're like all these things because you were so afraid of what you wanted to do. And once you made the decision of what you wanted to do, look at how much you learned to love yourself. Like, same thing for me. Like, we all just went from wanting to do something and doing it and just doing it, all fears aside, and being like, okay, well, here we go. I did it. Going, being like, man, I really like myself. Like, I'm not a bad person. Like, I'm not a bad human in existence. Like, some people might have a problem with me. That's okay. Some people can handle me here. Some can't. That's okay. Like, but I'm not a bad human. Like, I'm good. I'm a flower and I'm blooming. And like, when you can start talking about yourself that way versus going, and I have so many things I'm working through and I'm terrible at this and terrible at that. Like, drawing attention versus praise of self. Like, it's so, you learn to love yourself. Isn't like that beautiful?
a couple months ago, I always have these flashbacks of stuff I've done in the past or choices that I've made with less information, less years of experience under my belt. And usually my instinct was, I can't believe I did that. I should have done this. I should have done this. For the first time in my life, a couple months ago, I thought back to something and I was like, you know, Ashley did the best that she could at the time. And I was like, I am so proud of myself for not hating myself for past decisions that I truly did the best I could at the time.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just doing the best you can. You can't be mad at yourself. You genuinely can't. It's only when you don't do the best you can because of other things is when you're mad at yourself, because you knew you could have done it. Of course you knew you could have done it. You just didn't do it. So if you knew, why did you schedule your own misery? And sometimes, again, we're consciously not even aware that we're doing that. And that's like my tagline for 2021. Stop scheduling your misery. And it was after I had to finish off January stuff that I was like, I've scheduled into January miserable things that I don't want to deal with, that I don't want to like, and I mean humans too. I mean other things that I don't want to be a part of. And I've scheduled it because I didn't want to say no, or because I still felt obligated in some way. And that's something that, like, you know how much I'm all like, you don't have to feel obligated. You don't have to do all that stuff. Like, I still do that. And I was like, no, I said no. And I said no for a reason. So no. So I was like, February, no. And so I unscheduled all my misery. I literally unscheduled everybody I didn't want. I scheduled what I wanted. And I was like, no. And when I look at my calendar for like a month now, 2 months, and I'm happy about it, right, like I'm not dreading a phone call. I'm not dreading a car ride. I'm not dreading a PDF file. Like, I'm not dreading having a conversation or doing something. I'm going like, ooh, I'm so excited to talk to that people. I can't wait to see what they're gonna. Ooh, this is gonna be fun. Ooh, that's hard. How can I get this done? Like, that's the kind of way I look at my life now. I'm going like, I'm not scheduling my misery where I used to, all because we as humans have this need to fulfill others' obligations and others' wants more so than our own, because that we feel is going to make us a better human being. It's really not. Like, it will teach us lessons, it will get us through things, but at the end of the day, we're continuously just making Ashley's everything. Like, when is it time for Adela? Or when is it time for someone else involved? You know, when is it time for you? And we don't ask that. We don't stop that. So guys, stop scheduling your misery for 2021. You're literally still in COVID. You don't have anything to schedule.
It's okay to say no sometimes too, because if you have a check in your being about something, it means that there's probably someone a better fit for that role anyway. It's okay to say no. It's not a hateful thing.
No, I learned, Checkmate really taught me that. Like, I'm an emotional person. I try not to bring my emotions into my business as far as like what jobs need to get done and things like that. But I do base my decisions off of what is making me feel good in the decision I've made. And there was a couple of times where after our test production, where I sat there for 2 days going like, Adela, you know what you need to do. Like, literally, I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I needed to do that Sunday. And I sat there for 2 days, like, this turmoil. Every time I thought of that, every time like turmoil would come up, like the fact that I'd have to face or talk to my boss, like turmoil. And I was like, if I feel that way right now, just the thought, then of course when doing something, when being a part of in a physical space, it's only going to induce that. So why am I in here feeling this right now and not taking care of the situation? And that was a fear I had, because I didn't want to come off as ungrateful, as unappreciative, because again, they provided food to the table. But sometimes that food is rotten, guys. You can say no to rotten food. And that was what it taught me. It's like, I can say no to some rotten mac and cheese. There's mold on it.
The difference is you gave a recipe.
I did.
And sometimes when someone doesn't even attempt to follow it or knowingly deviates and they aren't open to correction.
And that was one of those, it's like I had to, again, that taught me, that moment was like, no, you managed everything. If this was all done and like you did this, and you have to give yourself that credit, where that's where I went back to myself. No, Adela did a really good job. She put it together. She gave everything she needed to do at the time that she had everything, involved everybody needed to be. The fact that that person didn't do the job, or the fact that those people, or the fact that this didn't come out, whatever the situation is, you can't take full responsibility, because again, that's that human error. That's that human error that we we have to account for and take and be like, I know that something's going to happen. So if I already know it, here's the preparations I need to have. And I'm like, I already accounted for all that. So why am I stressing something that I've already accounted for? And so it really taught me to get over that fear of, I call it having to fire someone. That's something on my next list. Like, I have to learn to say no to people like fully and be like, no, and not have a whole story of like, you're so great. You're so awesome. You're going to be so perfect in a different situation, and be like, look, you just didn't do the job. I'm so sorry. But, keep it that way, because that's hard. Especially when, again, in the industry that we care so much about humans. Like, oh, how do we make them grow? How do we help? And you did that with some of our models too. You're like, I'm going to help and I'm going to try this and that. And that also taught me that also fuels some things that we don't even want it to fuel. And it's like, no matter how much we try, we know we're not going to win always. So we can win 90% of the time. That's an A. That's an A in my book. Anything above it is an added benefit. And so I think in all, those lessons, those moments, you can have one or two hiccups, like, and then you get through them, and then you come in and you do it, and you're like, see, didn't even need it. Why were you so afraid? Why were you so afraid? And then you get done, you're like, hey, let's go to the next thing. But that's part of that. Like, you guys, that's part of growth. That's part of things that we all have to be in. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this conversations and this podcast, is because it's real time. It's real life. It's real things that we're going through our own selves, and real conversations that we have to learn. We're both, like, I'm a full-time entrepreneur. I don't have I call it your 9-to-5 job. I don't. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've had to learn everything on my own, and I've had to navigate my own way and do all these things. And she's an entrepreneur in her artistry, and so she's had to learn to navigate her own way. And so we've had to learn how to be our own bosses, how to be how to stand up for our own selves, how to be confident in decisions we're making, and
self-critiquing.
Oh boy. But all those things, and we're still doing that, and we've been at this for 4 or 5 years now together on the back end of stuff. And again, it doesn't change. The growth never stops, and you have to be willing to take it. And that's one of those humbling things that I think we are really, really, truly honing in on, and being like, this is what it takes. And if you're not willing to be open and honest about it and deal with these real life conversations, then no matter how much business, 9-to-5 doesn't work like that anymore. That environment, like we've just talked about, does not work like that. Those leadership skills do not work like that anymore. So we have to find a different way. And we've been very blessed that we've been able to do that. So yeah. What was one other question I had? I forgot. But let me ask you this about me. You and I have worked for a long time together now. I just told you about my first little, can I take a picture behind the scenes, to like now. What has been the one thing that either you have seen the greatest change in me, or you have learned that you like about me, or have tried to, not about me in a sense, but like my skills, likes, or things like that you've seen that you have been able to apply to your life, or just seen a change in, like something growth? Because I'm working at it, babe.
So I think that there is one constant throughout the duration of your career that has caused all of these changes. And that constant is not being afraid, having the courage to use possibly negative experiences in your life or emotions to fuel your artistry. And I mean, just the way that you use that in your motivation is truly inspiring. And I feel that has helped you grow as a leader, as a planner, in your artistic vision. I feel like that whole, and I feel like it also goes hand in hand with your care for the humans you work with. I really feel that those two constants have been what's caused all the growth in your artistry, your leadership, your business, your entrepreneurship. And I feel that we connected so well because that's really what inspired me. I chose art because I was fighting some bad demons, and I was like, this seems like an okay way to do it. Let's just go. But it's so true. It caused so much growth, and I can't wait to see where you are in a few more years.
Thank you so much. That's been a constant that I've known for a long time, but it's been a constant that I have been afraid to admit, because that's a part of you, that part of me, a lot of people have found a fault at. And that's something that has derailed me from a lot of opportunities because I care too much more about the end result of a human versus the opportunity at the time. And it's been a hard struggle to accept because again, it leaves you in a dark and lonely path sometimes, just because you're not deviating from who you are and what you want. But then it leads to other things and leads to more self-conscious awareness. It leads to being able to, today after I get off this, I'm going to process this whole conversation and I'm going to look at it and be like, okay, Adela, you really did a good job this time and you really could have done better next time, and just think about this way. And and I'll go, man, she said that, I should have commented on that. You're going to go through all these things, but ultimately we're here doing it and we're consistently doing them, whether we're great at them or not, whether we're whatever, we're improving. And that's ultimately the end of my, that's been something I've always wanted to do, is just, I want to evolve as a human. I don't care about the fortune, the fame, the glory of it all. I don't give two craps about it, but I do care about the human legacy that I leave in the emotional imprint. Like, touching a human's heart is the greatest thing you could ever do. I think leaving that imprint on someone, that's not something physical, that's not something tangible, that's not something you can but it can bring it back. Mm-hmm. And it can evolve and it can make these feelings and it can do these things to you that you just never thought possible. And so I've learned that that's been my greatest skill and my greatest gift, that it's almost witchery, and I love it. And I love being a little witch of it. So if you have weird things and are a little weird in the world like that, guys, it's okay. Feeling is good. It's not bad. And connecting on this level is so good, because Ashley and I may not talk every day and we may not be on that level, but at the end of the day, we know to the core of a human level, it's here, it's a phone call away, it's a conversation away. No matter what, we as humans are there for each other. And so ultimately that knowledge is what keeps us all driving and going, being like, man, we're at our worst and we don't have anybody. Go ahead.
I want to comment on the thing that you said, you don't care about the fame. There is such a difference in being indifferent about fame, but wanting your work to make an impact. Mm-hmm. So different.
Yes, and that's where I'll always get my work will and you know that, my work is that's my expression. That's my words. That's my narrative, and my work is what's going to change the world in the way that I would want it to. Not my fame, not my fortune, not my whatever else, not the benefits that come from it. Those are all benefits to me. The hard work, right? The hard work that we put into the things that we do, the intention that we set out. That's the truth of us. And so I believe I think our core group that we have, and it's a small core group and we know who we are, but our core group, little core group, that we're underground, so underground, you guys have no idea that when we come together, when we do our things and we create, we know at that level that it's just it has nothing to do about any one thing that we did prior to that, where we're going, what we're doing, who we're meeting with, what sets we're going to be on. It comes in and we're like, this piece of art, what are we doing with it? And it could be the lowest of budgets that we have and nothing, or it could be the grandest of something, but it will always come down to this piece of an idea, this form thing that we can build and make into, just this nova of something. And that's what I want out of it, because at the end of the day, I'm always going to be this. We're always going to be this, two girls in the corner.
I think it shows who cares about the impact their work makes, because how can your work make a difference if you aren't, again, caring for the people involved in creating it? The impact starts there and it ripples out through that. So, but that's the surest sign who really cares about their work.
Yeah, so we did really good on that. Thank you so much. Where can humans find you and your work?
Well, right now I'm most active on Instagram, and my username is just my name, Ashley Beloat. You can also follow my Facebook page. My posts are public, and I try to be as real as possible so you can follow along on the journey.
Yay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching Ashley. I think this was an awesome conversation. We had a really good one. I'm super happy about it. I think there was a reason. So FYI, just a really quick tidbit, you guys, this is our second attempt. we had a first that something malfunctioned and we don't know what happened. But so this is what happens, you guys. When something bad happens, there's a good reason for it, because look how much better this one was. Like, I'm thinking back on that. Right?
We've had a lot more that we could talk about.
We were prepared bad then too, but I think we were just so tired, and like we were so like, we're gonna do this. We're here to do this. Hi. And like that happened, but not like so much. But I think our conversation, the depth of our conversation, and the value, again, what our work is presenting is so much better than the first time. So understand that if something bad happens, you guys, in your work that you already done, it's because I believe this way, like completely to heart of it. It wouldn't have been valuable enough to anybody to see it. And I don't care if the one person, that one view we get, it's that one person that wouldn't have found any value to it. So what was the point of putting it out? And if we're gonna put value out, like put value out. So this was valuable.
Well, this is the funny thing too. And we did it like what, 3 months ago, 4 months ago? In that short time, we've done so much more that we can talk about. That's what we talked about, completely new things.
Right. Nothing of the old stuff, which is just like, holy crap. And so that just goes to show you that, again, it's okay. You're going to have good, bad days. You're going to do things, and you're going to lose things, or things are going to break for you, or you're just going to have one of those days where the universe is like shutting it all down. You're going to be like, man, that's going to happen. But understand that the relationships you have built with the humans around you, and they know why you're doing what you're doing, that no matter what the mistakes happen, and I call all of the mistakes, whether they're universal mistakes, whether they're your personal mistakes, no matter what the mistakes, the malfunction, your plans happen, if you can reach out and be as honest and be like, hey man, let's redo this because something happened, and yeah, here we go. That's why it hasn't been out. And they're like, okay, I got you this week. I'm like, thanks. That's the point. Having those relationships to know that it doesn't matter when and where, they'll still be there for you, or you'll still be there for them, even through that all. And I think that's just, again, that's just a testament to who we are as humans, and how much we value each other and value the group we're creating, because we're creating something bigger than I know that we're creating something bigger than I can even think about right now. But in here, I just know it. And it's like, I can't even fathom it right now, what we already have created that is going to come out to be like, holy crap. And it's not our work, you guys. It's really not our work. The relationships and the stories and what we've built through the journey of our work that is going to come out. And that's what I'm really, really excited about, because our work wouldn't have happened without them, like, and we wouldn't be here without it. And so be honest, be raw, be you, and everything else in life is just an added benefit, you guys, like everything else. So please go follow Ashley Beloat on her Instagram at Ashley Beloat, on her Facebook pages. You can check her out. We'll have it all in the links. And then also just follow through some of the journeys her husband Will does. He does it for us too, but you'll see a lot of her work through feature there. You'll see a lot of Project Humans work there too. Will Cook, he's got a vlog too, which they just actually posted a vlog too just now about some tips about BTS and modeling and what to do in shoots and sets. So by the time this comes out too, it'll probably be about a week or two, so you guys will get to do it. But check it out. It's really good. I just watched it today, and you guys did a really good job. By the way, ma'am, I have to give you a little credit on this thing. You just know how to do your thing here and give him that little thing. I love it, because I catch it, and I say, she knows what she's doing. That's how you know you're a professional, when you can do two things at the same time. Go, boom, boom, boom. I see you. Boom. Like, oh, I know that. I saw that transition. So it was beautiful. So check them out, you guys. You'll get to see a lot of that stuff and some upcoming things that they're both working on, which is pretty cool. So anyway, we will catch you guys up really soon. Soon. Oh yeah, I forgot to say this. Please follow Project Human at PHInc-ing.
Yes, please do that.
PHInc-ing.org. PHInc-ing.org. New way to think about mental and emotional health. That's who we are. That's what we do. The conversations we have. So follow us, and we'll talk to you soon.